So far in the race.
I thought the rig had come down.
Broken boats.
We just had a little fire on board.
Feels like we've been to hell and back.
I'm going to have to turn the batteries off again.
We broke the first rule. Tolman's first rule. Don't break a boat.
Broken dreams.
Devastation struck yet again.
The guys are heartbroken.
Temper tantrums. Sackings.
Someone has to go, and I guess my name was drawn out of the happiest time.
It hasn't really happened to me before, so it's a bit sort of funny, you know.
A crippling run of failures on the favourite Movistar.
I have zero faith in the boat and the people fixing it right now.
Skipper Bouwe Bekking is about to face the toughest decision of his career.
If I would quit now, it will have a huge effect for my future career.
Event boss Glenn Burke finds himself in a worst-case scenario.
Falmouth Coast Guard, this is Volvo Ocean Race headquarters. My name is Glenn Burke, I'm the Chief Executive.
The Atlantic Ocean becomes the stage for the most astonishing turn of events. Since Rio de Janeiro, the fleet have worked north, first to Baltimore, now to New York. It's hard going. This is a short leg with huge demands on the 10-man cruise. There's little chance of sleep as our fleet battle through ferocious storms up the east coast of the USA.
Nice one, machine.
After almost sinking off Cape Horn, Movistar are back in the race and full of optimism after finishing second in Baltimore. As dawn breaks over Manhattan, Pirates of the Caribbean, skippered by American Paul Kayard, enters New York behind leg winners ABN Amro 1. The Disney entry creates a media frenzy.
Well, I'm down here in Battery City. We're at Volvo Ocean Race, a race around the world. The Americans just pulled in. We're going to get a closer look at the boat and talk to the crew coming up. Yes, I have been captured by pirates. I'm on the Pirates of the Caribbean. This is America's ship in the ocean race.
This week is not actually a good week to be in North Cove, but when I was there when the stock market was dropping one time, all the women stockbrokers were coming out of the World Financial Centre and they were just absolutely shattered after a day's work of their stock dropping, falling through the floor, and they were walking into bars, and I was with some other members of the fleet, not off this boat, but one guy off this boat, but other members of other boats. For some reason they had some attraction to these women, and these women, stockbrokers, were just shattered after a day's work. They come and bang down a few martinis and they just grab the nearest thing that was next to them that was living and they just rip it out the door to get some physical release. It was shameful, it was sinful, and I had to witness it.
After being in contention, Movistar limps home with yet more damage which requires shore crew attention. They'll have to remain in New York longer than the rest of the fleet.
Movistar taken a 2-hour penalty for, just one boat, So they were thinking that others might, but they aren't. So they're not too worried. They have to fix it. So it's just it's something they've just got to live with.
It's
far as talking opportunities, 803, 805, 833. Enthusiasm. When you're on, you've got to be on.
I'm always enthusiastic. That's why I'm here.
Volvo Ocean Race. Volvo Ocean Race over here. Hello!
What's going on in your area?
It must get cold out there because this is nice and warm.
It gets very cold, yeah.
Right? Right?
Yeah.
So this is the Mount Everest of races. Is that the
that's
thing? 30,000 miles?
Do you fancy it?
Do I what?
Do you fancy going on board?
Yeah, maybe for one leg. I have a real life, so I can't hang out for the whole thing.
What kind of speeds are you getting through knot-wise?
Up to 40 knots.
No kidding.
It's a bit of pace on.
That's
550 miles, 560 miles.
And a crew of how big?
10. These guys accept the world record in Mono, 563.
Stunning. Stunning.
I'll be walking around Manhattan now with this jacket on, and people will say, "Ooh, dude, international sailor," right? Yeah. Like I look, you know, they'll think I'm.
Yeah.
You know, it's good looking.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
As the teams gather for the crossing of the Atlantic, there's tension in the air. ABN Amro 2 has the youngest crew in the race. As they farewell their loved ones, they're unaware of the tragedy that awaits.
I would ask you is, how in the world did these young...
Skipper Sebastian Josse will be at the centre of a maritime drama he will never forget. As the fleet says goodbye to New York, weather forecasters are predicting strong winds and heavy seas. Movistar wait out their 2-hour penalty. Boat problems have seen one technical manager sacked. The new man is optimistic.
You don't need to cross your fingers. I mean, we're not looking for luck to keep us together. You know, everything's it's more about good planning and preparation than luck.
Nature's a wild thing.
Nature is a wild thing. You don't know what's going to throw at you, but I mean, it's not as if this is the first yacht race around the world. You know, we all know what to expect. Yeah, they're going to have a pretty horrible couple of nights out of here. We'll all be I'll be sleepless probably. Not expecting a phone call or anything, but you're just like, oh God, I hope everything's going to be all right. Yeah, but that'll be right.
Crew member Peter Dorian has already questioned his desire to complete the race after a near sinking in the Southern Ocean.
I've got a very, very young family, another kid on the way, and I'm really unsure of where I should stay or go.
As Movistar sets out for Portsmouth, one thing is clear. The weather forecasters have got it right. The relentless pace is kept up even in the pitch-black conditions of the Atlantic night. On ABN Amro 2, there's hope of a podium finish. But their dreams are shattered and their lives changed forever as the cry goes up, man overboard.
The most sickening feeling you can ever have as an offshore sailor, to know one of your teammates is in the sea
Skipper Sebastian Josse turns the boat round and they mount a desperate search. Remarkably, within 40 minutes, they spot their crewmate, Hans Horowitz.
We got in contact with the guys on the white boat. They were turned around, they were on their way back to look for him.
They were on the phone to Derriford and tried to resuscitate Hans for an hour. And when you've been performing CPR for an hour and you've injected adrenaline, the hospital said, look, it's not worth carrying on.
Sounds like they did an amazing job to get back to them as quickly as they did, but unfortunately Hans didn't make it.
Hans was 32. He had selected the young crew of ABN Amro 2 himself and only decided at the last moment to join them on their epic adventure. When asked about the risks just before the start of the race, he replied, "Yes, it can be dangerous, of course it can, but what if we didn't sail? Life would be boring." He's survived by partner Petra and his infant daughter Bobby.
They are just under 1,400 miles from the finish line in Portsmouth, and all the yachts are still making best speed towards there. ABN Amro 1 is holding onto the her lead still, and ABN 2 is still mid-fleet where she was. Nothing's actually changed there.
The priority for us, for the team, for the sailors, is that we get them in to shore, to land, and the body off the boat as quickly and as safely as possible. So until they get in, we will not know any more details. We won't know the full circumstances and the full details. So that is, at the moment, all the information that we have.
Following the death of Hans Horowitz, it's up to ABN Amro PR manager Camilla Green and shore director Tom Tauber to manage the aftermath of the tragedy.
Tom Tauber speaking. Hi, Seb. Good to speak to you, mate. Good to have you on the phone.
Skipper Sebastian Josse calls for advice.
Yeah. Fine. You just go on sailing as fast as you can, but safe to Falmouth, and we will send out a rescue boat to meet you up 50, 60, 80, maybe 100 miles out. And that will be a RIP, a professional RIP that can do life savings on out at sea. And then you can still have the body removed before you go into Falmouth, or then you can even then you can still decide to sail on to Portsmouth. But at least we have contact then, and then you can decide on what you want. Okay, be strong, mate. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Bye.
On board Movistar, still recovering from news of Hans Horowitz, Bouwe Bekking and his crew are clawing back lost ground. For them, this leg may see them back in contention, at least for second place. But then their nightmare begins. Water is pouring into the boat. There's a major problem with the keel. It's so bad, there's a real possibility that they may need to abandon ship.
Could you give me a call?
Race director Andy Hindley calls Bouwe Bekking.
As an update for you, the Coast Guard says that there are vessels in your area which they will divert if it's a Mayday situation. So there are vessels, he is aware of that, and there are vessels nearby. He wouldn't, for some reason, tell me where the closest vessel was. Brunel will drive and go to Movistar if they need to. But there's only one point at which they can do that. Right. And if they sail past that point and they haven't said, yes, we need you, that option's gone, it's out the window. And it's about an hour and 40 minutes.
Brilliant.
For Movistar, the worst case scenario is the keel falls out and the boat turns upside down and they need to be rescued. That could happen in 5 minutes, or it could happen in a week. They could get in quite happily and find that they're safe and sound. We don't know that, they don't know that, and we've got everybody prepared to change their course and go to them as fast as possible. The Brunel option only has a small time frame, to use. But at the same time, we've got ABN Amro 2 on standby, which is a long-term option.
The problem is getting worse. The keel is threatening to break loose from the hull.
The water that's coming in is going out, so we're in good shape.
So we've got both pumps running now?
Both pumps. So we're all good. We've got our man down here, Chief Engineer Pepe. I'm the assistant on the pump.
So how do you feel about the whole situation?
I like to look at it with the half glass full, but the weather's good. We're pretty lucky. It could be bad weather, like it's forecast, and we'd have a lot on. So
the ultimate decision has to be taken by the boat. We can't call a mayday for them. What we can do is feed them information backwards and forwards to make sure that they're fully aware of everything. Now, their designer has said to us, this is really serious, and when the designer says it's really serious...
Hi, Matt. Oh, good. We're just about to send you an email.
Worry. So we're trying to find out which is the best boat to go.
What's happened is basically ABN Amro 2 will have to turn around and beat to get back to Movistar, they think, and they're a little bit worried about doing that under the conditions that they're going to have. So what we need to find out, to ascertain from you, is do you think it's possible to alter course so that you could go towards Movistar, or is that going to create bigger issues for yourself?
Glenn is the race CEO.
If you eventually got to Movistar and you had to hold station next to them, would that worsen your predicament with the keel? Okay, so our advice, the best thing that you can do now is what you've recommended to us, which is to continue for the next 2.5 hours, and we'll monitor Movistar, and we'll come back to you progressively and tell you whether this is absolutely necessary or whether we can find another solution for solving the Movistar issue.
Movistar don't want to abandon ship, obviously. They prefer a boat to stand by with them and just sail alongside them. Brunel can't do that for any length of time. So we'll ask ABN Amro 2, who have already stopped sailing and making 2 or 3 knots, to either turn round or just hold their position, and Movistar will sail up to ABN Amro 2. They will then make the decision of what to do once they're there amongst themselves. To compound this problem, there's a force 10 with 9 metre seas forecast to come through in the next few hours, 6 maybe 7 hours, depends how fast the system's moving and whether it accelerates or not. If the keel falls off, it'll flip upside down in a matter of seconds, and not tens of seconds. But it will be stable upside down.
For Glenn and his team, the decisions they make over the next few hours will be critical.
We thought it was sitting there and drink tea and watch the dots move across the screen. Hopefully break the world record, but yeah, didn't expect this.
On board Movistar, the desperate crew are using rope to hold the keel in place. Movistar's newly appointed technical manager, Campbell Field, had been confident before the leg that the boat's bad old days were history. Now he faces a long wait to know if he'll ever see the boat again.
I guess our biggest concern right now is that, the guys are okay. I mean, obviously the situation's pretty serious. There's talk of, evacuating the boat, so I'm just getting on to do what I can to help. I'll probably sit down in 12 hours' time and put my head in my hands and go, oh, fuck.
it's not over yet, but not by a long shot, and I think it's been a tough leg. I was just speaking to a number of the boats just to inform them what's happening with Movistar, and they all sound exhausted and, you know, depressed and tired and, yeah, tough.
How are you feeling?
Me? Oh, I'm okay. Yeah, it's my responsibility to keep it going, make sure it stays on the rails and that we keep reacting and that people are coordinated. So I'll be fine. I can do this all night if it takes all night, and we can do it all day tomorrow. And by that stage, we'll know exactly what the issues are.
With the body of Hans Horowitz on board, ABN Amro 2 is battling to reach Movistar. At race headquarters, their progress is being closely monitored. There are severe weather conditions on the way.
Just running forward with a theoretical track, they should just stay ahead of the low pressure system, but we're looking at 50, 55, 60 knots of wind down south, and on the back of the low as well there's a very steep pressure gradient, and with the rainfall, I mean, it could be up to 60, 65 knots. So they're trying to stay away from this, stay ahead of the low pressure system. It's pretty hairy. I mean, we're talking big waves. Very big waves. Bigger than this building. Yeah.
The body's been there for nearly 3 days, and it needs to come off fairly soon. But what we've got balancing or tossing up here is we've got 10 live people that may need saving at very short notice, because if the worst happens with Movistar and the keel falls off, the boat will be upside down within a few seconds, and then we've got 10 lives to save. And on the other side is the very sad situation with the body that we would like to get ashore, and you've got to balance those two, life and death.
The keel is way more stable because it's like Pepper says, right, that's part of the structure, so one piece. Yeah, there's more water. But there's coming more water in.
ABN Amro 2 and skipper Seb Josse are now alongside. They'll escort Movistar, ready to take on the crew if the worst happens.
Back again.
Yeah.
I spoke to Seb.
Yeah.
And he actually insists that there will be another escort boat for Movistar, and he's only going to stay for as long as absolutely needed to get another boat out, because he says it's ridiculous with the situation we are in at the moment, that he is to be the rescue boat of Movistar all the way through. It must be possible to find a Sunseeker, another boat, or whatever charter, whatever we can get from the west coast, and go and meet up with Movistar. And I think he has a point.
Falmouth Coast Guard, this is Volvo Ocean Race headquarters. My name's Glenn Burke, I'm the Chief Executive. What we're asking, respectfully asking of you, is that if you could ask any traffic in the nearby area whether they would be prepared to substitute for ABN Amro 2 and take over shepherding Movistar to land. Yes. Thank you. Bye. Drew a blank. Completely drew a blank.
We talked to the Navy, the Coast Guard, French fishing fleet, Spanish fishing fleet, anyone who can step up to the plate, you know?
Yep.
Yeah, we'll offer them a t-shirt and a hat.
We just run out of contacts at 2:20 on Sunday morning.
Sebastian Josse has said that he's not comfortable with staying with and trailing Movistar with this impending forecast. So he gave them an ultimatum that they could come across and get on his boat and be happy to make the transfer, or he would leave.
What about the pumps? How long do you think it will stay working? Hopefully an hour, 2 hours.
So, for skipper Bouwe Bekking, a choice. He can try to reach safety and save the boat as well as the crew, or he can transfer his crew to the grief-stricken ABN Amro 2 and abandon the multi-million-dollar campaign started so long ago.
If the keel falls off, it'll flip upside down in a matter of seconds, not tens of seconds, seconds. And then we've got 10 lives to save.
I mean, it could be up to 60, 65 knots. I mean, we're talking big waves, very big waves.
Life and death.
In the next programme, the dramatic outcome.